There was a man named Thomas, 40 years old, driven, focused. The kind of man who made plans in January and executed them by March. Thomas had built his entire adult life around one vision, owning a chain of restaurants. It was his identity, his dream, the thing he talked about at dinner tables and mentioned in prayers and wrote in journals going back 15 years. He had tried 3 times. 3 different locations. 3 different concepts. 3 times the doors had closed. Financially, legally, circumstantially, in ways that felt almost deliberate. And Thomas, stubborn, determined Thomas, was preparing to try a 4th time. His older sister Ruth sat across from him one evening and said something that stopped him completely. She said, "Thomas, what if God keeps closing these doors not to punish you, but because He is trying to show you a different room entirely?" Thomas didn't want to hear it, but the words stayed. The first sign that you are fighting God's plan is that everything feels forced. Not difficult. Difficult is normal. Growth is difficult. Discipline is difficult. Building anything meaningful requires effort, but there is a difference between difficulty and force. Difficulty feels like climbing a steep hill, hard, tiring, but the ground beneath you is solid. You are moving. Progress is real even when it is slow. Force feels like pushing a wall. Exhausting energy. Going nowhere. The effort is enormous but the movement is absent. Thomas knew this feeling. Every time he pursued the restaurant dream he ended up drained in a way that went beyond normal tiredness. Not just physically. Something deeper. Like his soul was telling him what his pride refused to accept. When everything you are doing requires supernatural effort just to stay in place, pay attention. That resistance has a message. The second sign is that doors keep closing, not once, not twice, but consistently, in ways that defy your best efforts. Now, closed doors are not always redirection. Sometimes a closed door is a test of persistence. Sometimes you are meant to knock again. But there is a pattern that goes beyond testing. When every door on the same path closes, when the financing falls through, when the partnership dissolves, when the timing collapses, when the location disappears, and this happens repeatedly across years, that is not bad luck. That is a pattern worth listening to. Thomas had 3 collapsed attempts behind him. Each time he had found a logical reason: wrong partner, wrong timing, wrong market. Each time he had reframed it as a lesson and started again. But Ruth's question haunted him now. What if the closed doors were not problems to solve, but directions to follow? The third sign, and perhaps the most honest one, is that you have lost your peace. Not your excitement. Not your motivation. Your peace. Because when you are walking in alignment with God's plan, even through difficulty, even through uncertainty, there is a quiet underneath everything. A settledness. A knowing that you cannot fully explain but cannot deny either. When you are fighting against the plan, that peace disappears. What replaces it is anxiety. Obsession. A restless needing to control every outcome because somewhere deep inside you sense that the foundation is not solid. Thomas had not slept peacefully in 2 years. He told himself it was the stress of building something. But honest people know the difference between the stress of building and the anxiety of forcing. One feels like productive tension. The other feels like quiet dread. 6 months after Ruth's question, Thomas made a decision that terrified him. He stopped pursuing the restaurants. Not forever, he told himself. Just for now. Just long enough to listen. And in the silence that followed, the silence he had been running from for 15 years, something unexpected happened. A colleague approached him about consulting for struggling food businesses. Helping owners who were exactly where Thomas had been, drowning in decisions, hemorrhaging money, losing hope. Thomas almost dismissed it. But something in him said, try. Within a year he had consulted for 11 businesses. 9 of them turned around. His reputation grew quietly but powerfully. Invitations followed. A book followed. A platform followed. He had not built one restaurant. He had helped save dozens. And standing in front of a room of restaurant owners who had come specifically to hear him speak, Thomas understood something that brought him to the edge of tears. God had not taken his dream away. God had expanded it beyond anything Thomas could have designed for himself. I want to speak to you directly today. If you are exhausted from pushing, if the doors keep closing, if you have lost the peace that used to live underneath everything, I am not here to tell you to give up. I am here to tell you to look up. There is a difference between persistence and stubbornness. Persistence says, I will keep going because this is right. Stubbornness says, I will keep going because I cannot admit it might be wrong. God's plan for your life is not smaller than your plan. It is larger. It is wider. It sees around corners you cannot see around. It accounts for things you have not even encountered yet. But you cannot receive what He has prepared while your hands are full of what you are trying to force. Let go of the forced thing. Not with despair. Not with defeat. But with the quiet courage of someone who trusts the one writing their story more than they trust their own outline. The room He is directing you toward is better than the door you keep knocking on. Trust the closed doors. Trust the redirection. Trust that what feels like loss from where you are standing looks entirely different from where He is standing. You are not losing. You are being led. If Thomas's story found you at the right moment today, share this with someone who needs permission to let go. Subscribe to Ancient Wisdom and stay close, real conversations, every single week. Take care of yourself. And trust the plan that is greater than your own.